Hey everyone, John Lorden here. Thank you for joining me on this very special Brainscratch Searchlight update. We are once again looking into the case of Michael Chambers. We have a guest that's going to help us with that, someone that actually has boots on the ground in the area, is working on this case very hard with his company, Klein Investigations. We have Philip Klein, who I'm introducing to you guys right now. Thank you, Philip.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate having you here. And I've already released a video this week kind of talking about what we have gone through in terms of getting to know each other. But let me just say once again publicly, I really appreciate the time and energy that you invested in bringing me up to speed on how you guys work, giving me much more insight into the concerns of a private investigator. And I think we both recognized that we're both kind of in the same boat when it comes to really wanting to help these cases, and we were able to kind of move forward from where we were stuck at the start of our friendship, let's say.
Oh, well, absolutely, and I think you do good work, John, and I think people follow you, and I've always gone under the auspice of that. I'm not the smartest egg in the basket. I'm not the dumbest egg in the basket. I'm just an egg in the basket, but I learn what not to do from the dumb and learn what to do from the smart, and I think if all of us were like that, we could probably move a lot of these cases down the road because, I've even had cases like out in California, up in Idaho, where people have watched you and then have called in here and said, you know what, he jolted my memory. You need to go check this out. And some of it has been fruitful. So, I want to thank you and for what you're doing for the public. And I think you got a good thing going. So please hang in there. Thank you.
And thank you to my audience and any of you that have called in those tips. That's exactly why we're doing this. So thanks to you guys. We can't do it without you. You're a big part of this. So today's case, Michael Chambers, very, very tough case. Is there any corrections or any details? Did you watch the video that I released on it?
I have not watched the video. My staff did brief me on it, though. Okay. Look, the Chambers case is a solvable case. This is going to be a case that's going to be solved. Yeah. Right now, we're going through what we normally go through in cases such as this is a political windstorm. We've got the sheriff who's a little upset, and he's gotten a lot of pressure from the community. I've met the sheriff one time. He was a very cordial, nice man. Yeah. I've got nothing wrong or nothing bad to say about this sheriff. Yeah. He is from the old school of law enforcement, whereas nobody from the outside is going to assist us with what we do. We know best. Right. And I understand where he's coming from. But when you get a team of 9 people on all specialized disciplines on all 9 levels, it's okay to have a couple extra eyes out there. I think the case in Idaho was that way with the FBI and Bonneville and Limhi County. Right. We had an excellent working relationship with them before we withdrew. Out in Redding, on the Immigrant case, we have an excellent relationship with those guys out there. Up in Canadian, the case we're working up there, we have an excellent working relationship with those guys up there, especially the OAG at Austin, Texas. So you put all that together and you get resources, and that's what should happen. The government side and the private side should come together. Yes. And work together. Unfortunately, on our side, as with law enforcement, there's sometimes you have people that just I don't want to break rule 1, which is say something bad about another investigator. Right. But sometimes they just don't do the job. And I think people that have worked with us understand, and I don't want to do a commercial here, but I want you to know, and I want your listeners to know that we work with law enforcement from the East Coast to the West Coast, down to Mexico, down to South America, to Canada, right. All over the world, Interpol. And we just have that relationship where the first thing I say when I walk in the door is, hey, if we get in your way, tell me to move, and I'll move very quickly out of your way.
Philip, that's why I'm surprised because I've even, when I was first getting to know your work, that was one of my things I wasn't sure about was, hey, this guy seems to buddy up with law enforcement all the time. What if he's dealing with a case where law enforcement might potentially be involved? But it seems like your MO that you're trying to collaborate with them all the time.
I try to share.
Yeah.
I don't collaborate with them. And as you, I think you and I have talked about this before. I come into every case cold. I don't want to know what they've done. I don't want to know what they've done.
Right.
I want to do my job. And I do my job. At the end of my job, I always do things in 3 phases. I come into the case, learn the case, build it up, come up with the direction, the hypothesis of the case, and then go out there and figure it out and solve it. I have an 84% success rate. Reason is that works. Right. It works because you don't have the influences of other people around you. Yeah. And so I think, and it's a very big discipline with my staff too, because, this police report, I said, I want you to get that police report. I want you to throw it in the trash. I don't want to hear about a police report. I want you to get out there and get on the ground and talk to these people. And that's what we do. And I think after the police see that, and then we come back with what we come back with, like in the Coons case, we came back with what we came with. I can't change those facts. Right. I just can't. Right. I'm not Dior Coons's defense investigator. Yeah. I'm not his defense investigator. I'm the guy who was hired by the community to go out and find out A, what happened, and B, where the body was. And I think I know what happened. I mean, I'm pretty like 99.9% sure, but we haven't found the body yet. Right. And I believe they will find that body. But in the Chambers case, I think that's where the sheriff was. And I have not had the substantive conversations with him because I'm not ready to have substantive conversations with him. When I'm ready, I'll call him and I'll go buy him a cup of coffee and sit down with him again and say, look, okay, here's where we are. Read our stuff. Yeah. And he's going to like it or not like it, whatever he likes. But I think this case is a very interesting case where you might have some governmental influence in on the case.
Yeah, and honestly, from what I've heard from several sources, some of which want to remain anonymous, people are very concerned about that. I've had people that have sent me emails saying, hey, look, Hunt County has a history. You can look into it. You can see that there is a lot of strange things that happen in this county. It's strange because, looking at Meeks from the outset, the guy oozes Southern charm. But in particular with that Facebook interview that he did, he got really hot and defensive with that particular person very, very quickly about some comments. How often does this happen to you?
That was a very telling interview. I think that was a very telling interview. I don't know if it came from frustration. He's leaving office. I think I don't know where it came from, but wherever it came from the wrong place.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it common for law enforcement that considers themselves close personal friends with someone to work the case if that someone goes missing or is killed?
In my 28 years, this is my first time I've ever seen this. Usually they aggregate and they say, bring in the Rangers, bring in the OAG, bring in somebody, bring in the FBI, bring in anybody but me. Right. And he didn't do that, and that's not happening. And that's of grave concern to us. But it may just be he going out doesn't want this hanging over his head. I don't know. I haven't had a substantive discussion with the sheriff. Right. Like I said, I liked the sheriff. I thought he was a great guy, but then he came out in that Facebook thing, and that's why we were forced to even say anything. We weren't going to say anything, but we had to say something. Yeah. The bike. I mean, come on. You're going to have a 70-year-old guy on a bike for 20 miles?
With bad news.
I can't even find a bike. I can't find a second hanger in the garage for a bike. I have no pictures of another bike. I asked our client and her family, where was the bike hanging? We don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Is there a second bike? Right. Oh, we don't know of a second bike. Oh, okay. Well, there goes the bike theory.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been a really hard theory for me to get my head around. Have you seen the GPS information at all?
I have. I've seen all the GPS information. I've got the cell phone tower ping report. We subsequently got another specialist to come in and verify that. There are verifications of that. And there are some bad stuff with that. I just can't talk about the bad stuff, but I'll talk about the good stuff. His phone was pinging. Okay. Bad news was there was blood on the ground. Right. We differ with the police department. It wasn't trickles of little bitty blood. It was a lot of blood. Okay. We are concerned with that. There was a dowel, and if your listeners don't know what a dowel is, it's a long piece of wooden, like stake or tool, and it was bloodied up really badly.
How big?
Saw some pictures of it. Oh yeah.
How big is that dowel? What gauge is it? Like a half inch or?
I'd say it's a half, maybe a quarter. It looked like a half to me. I didn't get a chance to measure it because they wouldn't show it to us, but it's a bloody dowel. The private investigator that is in also on the other side of the case, who's a fine man, I like him a lot, works for a very close friend of mine. His comments were a little bit out of line, but I think he kind of backed up and went, well, wait a minute, maybe I do need to listen to some other theories here, because you don't have that much blood and you don't have a bloody dowel,
right,
and you don't have, the blood comes all the way to a point and then it stops.
Right.
Like something was laid out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we see, and I sent it over to Harris County Medical Examiner's office, the photography. We got some really good photography. And the photography was a thing called dog walk. When you put your hands up underneath somebody's shoulders and you hold their hands and the other one gets the feet and the head goes back like this. And, when you're walking, you're stepping, that's called a dog walk. Right. And we definitely saw signs of that.
In the blood droplets, they were
in the blood droplets. Oh, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it sticks out.
And his granddaughter mentioned on the Vanish podcast that there was a pool at one point where it looks like the wound was obviously stayed there for a while. So you saw that.
It could have been a wound. I'm more looking towards blood coming out of the mouth and the ear.
Okay.
The blood was very bright red, it was arterial. It wasn't venous, and it stayed for a while, which means sometimes that can indicate cerebral fluid.
Okay.
I don't know. I wasn't there that day. I didn't take those samples, but the samples that we were able to get secondary that are still in the lab, we'll take a look at that.
And the blood looked fresh, right? And looked fresh enough.
It was fresh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was very fresh. Yeah. It had just happened. It was still tacky, still sticky. Wow. The conversation about the door being open or the door being closed. Well, you get one side. I got one witness down there who's an ex-police chief that says, well, she pretended like she was opening the door, but I looked and it looked like the door was open to me. And then, you get some of these other witnesses give other sides of Miss Becca's story, then you want to go talk to Miss Becca. And we've tried to go to Miss Becca and sit down with her and say, okay, tell us your story.
Right.
No, I'm not talking to you. Well,
now, how many cases has that happened to you in?
None.
Okay.
None where there was an innocent person.
Right.
I mean, none.
Talking about that relationship a little bit, it's mentioned that Meeks specifically said that he was close friends and that they had gone to church together. A source that spoke to me said that they were actually just kind of passing friends in church, and actually Michael Chambers left and started going to a different church. Do you know?
Yes.
Any details?
Yes, that would be truthful. The relationship between Becca and Meeks, I'm not 100% worried about that. I'm worried about it more on a law enforcement side, being involved in something that you knew that person very closely.
Right.
My concerns have always been and will continue to be is the Becca's relationship with other men.
Okay.
I do know, and it's common knowledge, and it's been out there that she was having relationships with other men.
Right.
One in particular who kind of got caught in a lie with us, and when we confronted him, well, no, I hadn't talked to her in a year, and then we start talking to him and saying, well, by the way, we have these phone records, and you talked to her at 2:00 in the afternoon right before this incident began.
Uh-oh.
And then, we were talking still, but okay, now why did you just lie to me? Don't always remember with me, as a good investigator, I've been taught by some of the best, from Washington to Quantico all the way down. Mm-hmm. You always know the answers to the questions before you ask them.
Right.
And I asked him specific questions that I knew if he had said, I talked to her at 2:00 in the afternoon, she was upset about this. Hey, there you go. Okay, you got an honest guy. Right. But to sit there and say, nah, I hadn't talked to her. that's a little something that's not out, that he lied. He lied to me big, and our interview investigator, MJ Holmes, was there and kind of really pinned him down and said, okay, now, why don't you tell us the whole truth? What's going on? Well, we've been having a relationship. Well, why don't, that's the reason I didn't say anything. What was the conversation that day? Why did she call you? Why did you call her? What was the conversation? If you look at the timeline, and I'll release a little bit of the timeline to you because I think it's up for good discussion.
Sure.
So she's making phone calls to this boyfriend, and who denies that he was a boyfriend, but we all know he is. And he knows, finally admitted after MJ had a few hours with him, finally admitted that, okay, yeah, I was the boyfriend. So there's a period of time, and I don't want to be specific on times because that throws everybody into a, oh my God, this is what was said now and that, we don't want to go in that discussion.
Sure.
We've learned our lesson on that. In the afternoon, Becca's phone goes dead for an hour and roughly 32 minutes.
Now it's dead. Turned off. It's not just she's not answering.
It's not dead. It's dead. We're not pinging. We're not talking. There's no texts, no phone calls, no nothing. And then all of a sudden it comes back up, and then the first 15 minutes of it coming back up, we're running next door, talking to the neighbors. Well, he's not home, don't know where he is. We go call 911 eventually. There's a bunch of things that happen. Families called, hey, have you seen him? Have you seen him? That kind of gets us kind of thinking. And then the boyfriend calls again at 5:30, 6:30 the next morning.
Okay.
And there's a discussion there. So are we saying that the boyfriend's involved? I don't know, but the boyfriend needs to talk to us a little bit more, but he's kind of clammed up now and he doesn't want to talk. Does she need to talk to us? Absolutely.
Right.
Why was she doing talking to the boyfriend right before she calls her husband in missing, or that right before that hour and a half gap? So, those are the gaps we're looking at. And then of course we see, the conversation she's having with other men. Mm-hmm. That is of concern to us, both before and after. We have her phone records. We've got them.
Yeah.
Well, we're studying them, and we're putting them in the timeline. And I'm not saying she's a suspect. I'm just saying
something's happening. Yeah, I mean,
come talk to us.
Right.
I mean, what's it going to lose you? I mean, if you're really that upset about losing your husband, you think your husband's gone.
Yeah.
Why not talk to guys that find people all over the world? Number one. Number two, we're concerned with the sale of everything starting within a period of 10 days. I mean, everything started getting sold. His truck,
even the house is up for sale now.
House was up for sale, everything. And consequently, on her side, I can understand that. If my husband was, if my wife was killed, or anybody's wife was killed, they're in a home, I wouldn't want to move back in that home. I wouldn't want to be on that property. I wouldn't want to be there. Yeah. I just wouldn't. And that's on her side. I get it. I get what she's doing. But what I don't get what she's doing is the misinformation that she put out. And that kind of bothers us, to friends, to family. We've interviewed everyone around her. I mean, there's not one person other than this one young lady that she kind of hangs out with that we had a substantive conversation with, and she decided she didn't want to talk to us. And she's kind of Becca's protector, and she said she just didn't want to talk to us. So, I mean, you look at all that combined with everything that we've got going on the evidence side. Remember, there's evidence and interviews, and you get the evidence and you get the interviews to back up the evidence. They're not meshing. And we've got to get to Becca, and we've got to talk to Becca and say, Becca, we got to talk to you. Just talk to us. Tell us what happened.
Yeah. And it's weird because if she's just trying to cover up the fact that there was other relations going on with other men, that's already out. I mean, it's in the rumor mill.
Welcome to 60% of the United States. I mean, really? I mean, what are you embarrassed for? Everyone knows, you're not the perfect church lady, but nobody is.
Right.
Nobody's perfect in this case.
Yeah.
There's no perfect church lady in this case, and maybe it's her ego. I don't know. But she needs to sit down, and her excuse is, well, I've already told law enforcement everything. Well, okay, that's nice, but we're not law enforcement, and we don't want to know what you told them. We want you to talk to us so that we can document, and then we'll look at what you told law enforcement. If it all matches, everything's great. If it doesn't, then we go down the trail.
Now, I've also heard that Investigation Discovery is doing a piece on this, on disappeared, and she's not participating in that either.
She's not participating in anything, and I don't know if her counsel has told her not to. If she has counsel, I don't know. But no, she's not participating in anything. She's not talking about nothing. She's just, and that brings me to the other thing is why did we have to hustle down to a JP that we have another relationship with and get a declaration of death in a period of 2 weeks? I'm telling you, I have been doing this 28 years. I've never seen anything like that before. Yeah. I don't even know how it got through the justice system. Now, the excuse is, well, we had bills to pay, money we had to transfer to keep alive. Okay, I get all that. But usually banks and loan institutions and those sort of things will do a waiver of an X amount percentage of the estate so that you can continue on with your life. Right. Plus, she had a job. So, why declare him dead? I mean, I've interviewed one of the sons. He's adamant that his father committed suicide, which God bless him. And I told him this when we met, we had coffee. It was a good conversation. He started off really uptight. I did too. Yeah. And by the end, we were talking and really we were getting the case down the line. I think his position is that, life has to move on and life has to move on fast. And I don't know that and when you have a possible homicide, let's everybody pull the reins back a little bit and let's slow down.
I've seen family members, we all grieve in different ways, and I've seen that trend before too. Some people just want to move forward and try to not really stay in that mode of, something bad could have happened here. Let me just forget about it and kind of move forward. And
seeing the same thing. Yeah. Seeing the same thing, but nothing like this. Nothing like we're selling everything, we're getting rid of everything, we're back in the bar, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm not talking to anybody, and that's the way it is. And then you kind of go, okay, you're not talking to me.
Have you confirmed her work schedule for that day?
Have I confirmed her work schedule?
Yeah, because I know she travels. Okay.
Yes, we have.
And she did have an appointment. She did work right up to the end of the day.
She was done till 2 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, no. Mm-hmm. Oh. She disappeared at 2 o'clock. Yep. 2:30. Her phone went dead. She was out of the system.
Wow, that's a really interesting development. So
right after talking to the boyfriend.
Yeah, which, like we said, could potentially be a meetup. Just them meeting somewhere to have a date or something along those lines. But
could be.
The timing is certainly suspicious.
The timing is suspicious, and his inability to tell us the truth is in the beginning was suspicious.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know if she has helped on any of the search efforts or distributing posters or?
That's really not my side of this thing. Yeah. Our clients have told us that she has come out to a couple of the events, but not really proactive.
Okay.
Not really proactive.
Just to clarify from the last video, I wasn't quite sure about the relationships here. Becca is indeed his second wife. He had children with his first wife. They adopted children together, from what I understand.
That is true.
Okay, so just some clarification on all that.
In fact, the youngest adoptee son was involved in a very tragic accident this last week. He's still in intensive care, I think. Up there into the Dallas area. He fell off of scaffolding, I think, and got hurt very, very badly. So,
well, we certainly wish him
our prayers are out to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, I think you've kind of touched on it, but just to be clear, one of the major rumors flying around here is that Becca might have been involved with Sheriff Meeks, but it seems to me that you're just much more of the mindset of even a friendship there is kind of bad enough in terms of him investigating it. But do you think that there's more than just a friendship there?
I got to be honest with you. We're in the process of exploring that right now. Okay. On the outset, I don't see anything that indicates any nefarious activities between her and him. Do I see a friendship? No, not really a big friendship like you suggested. Maybe passing in church, maybe something like that.
Right.
But we do have indications, and there are a couple of agencies that are looking at it right now. So I'd be remiss to really go into that other than to say we're looking at it.
Okay. Fair enough. There was a protective order placed between Becca and one of her children. Is that tying into this case at all? Can you tell us more about that?
Well, Yeah, I mean, it's discussion worthy. So after this all goes down, there's a lot of upset in the family. This youngest person, who is the youngest member of the family, who consequently is in the hospital right now, has had some alcohol-related issues, some drug-related issues, and I don't know why Miss Chambers did that. It was very unusual circumstance that she did that. She said that he was calling, threatening to kill him and to hurt her. The interviews that we've done with the neighbors and the people up and down the highway and behind in the woods and, all these people, they've never seen anything like that. We've talked to some family members. Yeah, there was some give and flow, but nothing as much as a restraining order against your own child. I mean, come on, that's pretty drastic.
Yeah.
And so there was nothing really there that really raised everybody. Although it has to be mentioned that the boy did get out of control a couple of times. So,
okay.
And I'm not talking about fist fights and beating people or anything like that. I'm talking about loud voices, screaming, yelling, that sort of thing. That's the best we can find.
Okay.
We can't find anybody beating on each other.
Yeah, and
but that would warrant a restraining order.
Right.
Let me step all the way back. I don't see anything in my investigation that shows anything that would warrant a restraining order.
Gotcha.
I just don't see it.
So does this woman have some pull with very important people there to be able to you talked about how it's weird that the death certificate was done so quickly. Now she's getting a protective order when you're not seeing enough for there to be one.
Well, I think there's been some situations where there's been some friends with benefits situations. I think that when you have a friends with benefits situations, the guy that got the benefit sometimes goes, well, maybe I better do this, or she might get wild and crazy and say stuff and embarrass me, and I'm a political official and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Do I see that? Absolutely, I see that. But do I see anything other than, nefarious issues where people are trying to, hang something over somebody's head? No. I think it's scared politicians, and I think it's a small community, and everybody knows everybody. And when you walk into church and you believe in Jesus, and you walk back out and you thank Jesus for everything that he's done for you, and then you get out in the community and you forget about Jesus. Right. I think that's maybe is the situation up there.
Gotcha. Now, an interesting aspect of this case is what was taken and what's missing. Obviously, we're talking about possibly a small amount of cash from his wallet that's missing. I learned from an anonymous source, and maybe you can confirm this, that in his truck, he would regularly keep a larger amount of cash, and that cash was still in his vehicle.
I'll confirm the cash was in the vehicle.
Okay.
I'll confirm that there was money in a driver's license taken from his wallet.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't a lot it was a small amount of money. The big money was still in the warehouse. I call it the warehouse, his garage.
Oh, okay.
He had one of those big tin double-door garage things.
Yeah.
And I want to say double-door, one on the side, one in. And there was a large amount of money found in that building, and that it had not been disturbed.
Okay. In your opinion, is the small amount of money that was taken, is this something to make it look like there was a robbery angle on this? I'm
not convinced there was money.
Oh, okay.
I'm just not. Everybody's saying there was, but when you got a guy that has X amount of $100,000 in a box in a warehouse, and it could have been a 20, could have been. I just don't see that.
Gotcha.
I don't see any reason, and neither does any of my crew. My crew is very ambiguous about this, because I got some of them that say, well, it could have been a robbery, but why would you take a man's driver's license? What the hell is that all about?
Right.
The auspice of the police is, and what they're running with is that he got his driver's license, got a little bit of money, stuck it in his pocket, got on a bicycle, went 20 miles at 4 miles an hour. Do the math.
Yeah.
Doesn't work out. It comes out to 9, 10, 11 at night. Went over to the 2 mile bridge, brought the bike over to the 2 mile bridge, threw the bike in the water, and then jumped 9 feet to his death.
Right.
My 2-year-old granddaughter jumps 9 feet into the swimming pool without a problem. Okay. Yeah. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I can't confirm a second bike There's no second bike. I don't know a second bike.
Right.
Somebody show me where the second bike was. Somebody show me where the rack was. Somebody show me where it was stored. The other bike, consequently, and this is an interesting fact, when I heard about that, we were given access to let's just say the scene.
Yeah.
And we went in and we looked at that second bike. And that second bike, there was no way that bike was going anywhere. The tires were flat. The chain was rusty. I mean, the bike hadn't been ridden in probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Right.
Then I immediately went to see, I saw how Mr. Chambers had put the bike up on a rack, on a big wall of racks that he stored auto parts on. Mm-hmm. So I immediately went and saw how he put that bike up there. And then it was pretty well secure. It was a good job. Mm-hmm. So immediately I looked and see could you put 2 bikes on that rack? Absolutely not. There was no way. Then I went down to see if there was another rack where it could have been a bike. There was no other racks. So where was the bike stored? Well, I can't get a clear answer out of anybody. Where was the second bike stored? Well, we don't know. Well, what do you mean you don't know? Why are we saying then there's a bike going all the way to the 2-mile bridge and he throws the bike off? Yet we've had sonar down there, we've had divers down there, we've had DPS divers down there, we've had volunteer divers down there, we've had EquiSearch down there, we've had everybody down there, and no one can find a bike.
Right.
Well, what? I mean, why are we sticking with this theory? Yeah. Why are we even talking about suicide at this point? It very well could be a suicide at some point. But here's what you have, honestly. Blood in the warehouse that ends abruptly. Okay, that indicates to me as an investigator that I've got to put on the table. I'm not saying it happened. I'm just saying I'm putting the theory on the table now that somebody put a tarp over there, they put a body in it, rolled it up, and they got out of there.
Yeah.
The dogs all go out. The primary dogs went out according to what we've been told. The primary dogs came out of that garage and then they stopped within 10 feet of the garage.
Right.
That indicates what?
Yeah, loaded into a vehicle.
All right, or a vehicle, something. Right. Take the body. Do I think that body's anywhere near that place? No, I don't even think it's anywhere near the 2-mile bridge. I think it's up there in the hills somewhere. I think somebody took it out to a deer lease. I think if it's a nefarious operation. Right. Did Michael Chambers, bloodied Michael Chambers, get on a bike and ride X amount of miles?
6'3" with bad knees.
Yeah. With horrible knees. Being a firefighter, horrible knees. And he hadn't ridden a bike, and he's having arthritic problems, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I don't know about you, but those people out in the country, they see a bloody guy going down the road on a bike. They're going to call either 911, they're going to stop and say, "Mister, can I help you?"
Yeah.
That's the way those people are out there. And it's just like they are up in Canadian Texas. Salt of the earth people. Right. They are just salt of the earth people.
Yeah. Do you have any theories on, well, I think, first of all, one of the points I made was the phone obviously does not mean that it was him, right? The phone could have been separated from him.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Okay.
We don't know it was him. We just know it was his phone.
Yeah. I know that you've done some pretty good technical analysis when we were talking about the Canadian case in particular. Have you had anyone analyze the GPS and the speed and determine?
Absolutely.
And do they think it was a bicycle?
No, I don't think it was a bicycle at all.
Same conclusion I came to. It's too slow.
Yeah, it's too slow.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
No bike.
Very interesting.
No bike. I'm telling you, if somebody can come to me with firm evidence that shows this man got bloodied up in his shop, took a minute to get his driver's license and put it in his pocket, pull a bike down off of a rack that probably had flat tire, just like the other bike had just nothing going for it.
Right.
Fix all of that, right? Get on the bike and drive 20 miles in some pretty heavy stuff. Yeah. I mean, on the side of the road bleeding, and then decides he's going to jump off. I don't know. And this is another thing that's been interesting. There's been some conjecture out there that this guy was Mr. Depressed, that he was, it's horrible, it's terrible. We don't see anything like that, especially from all his neighbors. He's always jovial. Hey, how's it going? Come next door, help you take a tree limb down. I'm having problems with that.
I know.
Somebody come to me and tell me about how he said he was depressed. His firefighter buddies? Nah, he He's fine. Typical old guy.
Yeah, no, I know it was Meeks made a statement that he was depressed for the last 3 weeks in particular. But
Over what?
There was no additional information. He literally just said for the last 3 weeks he was known to be depressed.
I know, but I'm being rhetorical. But
No.
over what?
Yeah.
I can't find over what.
Well, is it possible that he found out about his wife's indiscretions?
He's always known about his wife's indiscretions. This is not the first time. Him and the boyfriend had actually had a conversation about it about a year before.
Wow.
So, he's depressed about his wife messing around? No, he knew his wife was messing around. He just lived with it. He had a big heart. He didn't care. At 70 years old, what do you care?
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, there's a point where you go, who cares? I mean, go have your fun.
Right.
I'm going to cut my grass and fix my cars and play with my dog and do my thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he was from what I can see. I can't get anybody to come to me and say, no, Mr. Klein, he was depressed about this, and this. I don't have anything that indicates that to me. Okay. But, we're still looking.
Yep. Now, in terms of his driver's license, one of the things that I was kind of kicking around in terms of theorizing on it is I was thinking, when do I pull out my driver's license? And the only time is pretty much if I'm doing a purchase where they're requiring it, they want to check it because I'm using a credit card or something, or if I'm interacting with law enforcement. Absolutely.
Those are the two things.
Yeah.
And that, again, brings us back to square zero. Okay, so why did the phone turn off for an hour and a half?
Right.
Almost 2. Why do we have such a personal relationship with law enforcement? We got blood on the floor. We got a bloody dowel. We got a mysterious bike. We got pings from point A all the way around to 2 Mile Bridge.
Right.
We got a boyfriend floating around out there who says, no, I hadn't talked to her in a year. Well, look at these records. Yeah, you have. You talked to her 3 times before she went dark, and then 1 time after she went dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then the next morning, you talk to her again at 5:30 in the morning. Who calls who at 5:30 in the morning when somebody's husband's missing?
Right.
Well, you just want to be a good friend? I mean, I don't know. Like I told you before on the phone, and like I'll tell you here live on the air, these are all pieces of a puzzle that you put together, and it comes up with a picture.
Yeah.
And then it's up to prosecutors to present that picture to a jury and go with it. In this case, my gut instinct is that there was some type of issue that was going on. He was hurt there at the garage. I think he was rolled up in something. I think they took his body. I think they took it somewhere and dropped it. And, that's why we're very well aware, and I think DPS is very well aware, and I know the Rangers are very well aware. Any bodies that come up in that area immediately,
Yeah. They're going to be checked.
That needs to be checked. Do I think it's anywhere close to the house? No, I think they were smarter than that. I think they took it far, far away. I really did.
I did hear from a source that it seems like the trash pile seemed to move at the home. Have you looked into that angle at all?
We have. We've taken samples of the trash pile. We don't see anything there in the trash pile. We don't see anything other than boxes and stuff that the family was trying to burn. It's out there in the country, and you do have some sort of garbage pickup.
Right.
But, you get a box, you go burn it. I mean, that's just the way it is. They have a burn pit, and you go burn it.
Right.
But I don't see anything there in the burn pit that's of concern.
Okay, excellent. Now, I've also heard from some people that the blood droplets potentially look staged, people that have seen photos, but it's your opinion. I think you've made it pretty clear. The attack seems to have happened.
I think the Texas Ranger, who she is a great ranger, and she thinks that it was a staged kind of a thing, kind of, somebody doing this and in a circle and that sort of thing, until you actually see it. And it depends upon what angle you're standing at it. I take the position that when I do a crime scene or I look at crime scene photos, I look at it in 3D. Okay, so I want to see, is it north or south? Mm-hmm. The direction of the blood, and sometimes it's other stuff, brain matter, whatever it is, which direction it's going. Mm-hmm. And the third thing I want to do is I want to see the width of it. Okay, what's the width? Now, the width is very important to me because if I'm moving a body, I'm lifting that body, And a dead body is dead weight. I mean, that's the big joke. Hey, it's dead weight. Yeah, you're right. It is dead weight. 185 pounds is really 185 pounds, okay?
Yeah.
Like we just discussed before about the head will throw back and roll back, and it'll go like this
with
back
each step.
and forth.
Yeah.
If you're carrying the body. If you have blood or fluid or a gunshot wound or something, you're going to see that dog walk pattern. You're going to see that squiggly pattern. I see that. I mean, does it mean anything? To me, it does. To others, so far, it's meant nothing.
Yeah.
But to me, it means something. And the reason it does is because of the abruptness of the stop. I mean, it just stops. I mean, it's there. It goes like this, and then boom, it stops.
There's nothing that you found in the shop where he could have covered up his wound, taped it up, grabbed a rag, nothing like that?
We looked and we asked, and they said no.
Yeah.
There was no first aid, and there was no attempt at first aid. Like I was working in my garage the other day, and I cut my finger. Well, the first thing I did was I grabbed a rag, and I put it around it, and I put pressure on it, and then it stopped, and then I put the rag down, okay? There was some blood droplets on the ground next to my hand.
Right.
Well, you can decipher that by just looking and using your mind and going, oh, well, yeah, there it is, okay. It wasn't a big pool. It wasn't anything like that. This was, I consider to be a large, and so does the Harris County Medical Examiner's Office, who we had to look at it. Mm-hmm. That's a significant amount of blood droplets.
Yeah.
Maybe my theory, I'll give you the theory I'm working with now. MJ and a lot of those other guys, they're still working it. I believe possibility could have got hit in the head, knocked out, went down. They grabbed a tarp, picked him up. Was he dead yet? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know. Rolled him up the tarp, and they're gone. That's my theory.
And you're thinking
my theory is based upon the physical evidence.
And you're thinking the way that you described him being carried, that it's likely two people?
Oh, yeah. There's two people involved.
There was no smearing of
two or more. Oh, there's no doubt in my mind. There's a lot of people. I think there's probably two or more people involved.
Okay.
Was it a hit? No, I don't see any signs of a hit. A hit would be clean. I mean, they come in and pop him and roll him up, and they'd be over, and they grab the money and they do everything. Or if it was a hit, they would. But he had no. We've checked his background all the way to the Dallas Fire Department. He come into work, sit in the chair. He was an old guy, sit in the chair. Everybody else do the work. He drive the fire truck to the fire, back it back in, wash the fire truck, go back and sit in his chair, have his coffee. He had no enemies.
Yeah.
He had zero enemies.
Yeah. I heard that his truck, that the seat might have been in a strange position, that it might have been too close to almost like someone smaller than him would have been driving it. Have you heard anything?
I have no evidence of that. I've interviewed some of the people that were out there at the scene that night. In fact, I've interviewed every single person, including, other than the first sheriff's deputy that got there and then the second sheriff's deputy that arrived to rope off the scene. I've talked to everybody involved, and they don't see that. They don't see any indication of that.
Was there anything interesting about his truck, where it was parked?
Nothing. Nothing. It was just parked in the garage, by the garage, like it always was parked.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So let's see. They did release a photo of a bike, right? Just they're saying that the bike might be like this one. Have you reviewed that?
Yeah, I saw it, and I don't want to be flippant. I really don't want to be flippant. I want to say that picture, I can get a picture of a bike and put it up on the internet and say, hey, everybody needs to look at that bike. I mean, Is it a suggestive thing? Yeah, I think it's a suggestive thing. Again, you go back. I have to go back to what I know, and I go back into that warehouse or that garage or whatever you want to call it, and there was no other mounts for another bike.
Right.
And there was no secondary mount for that bike with the bike that's still in that warehouse.
Yeah.
And if you've got to go with what you know, which is the secondary bike had flat tires, I mean, probably rotted. The chain was solid rust. The mechanics of it weren't good. And I can't, and you interview, probably we've interviewed 40 neighbors.
Yeah.
40, maybe 50 neighbors, and say, hey, well, tell us about how he rides his bike. Mm-hmm. We ain't never seen him ride a bike before. What are you talking about? Well, you ever seen the family out on family bike rides? No, I've been here 18 years and they've been, no, never seen it. So you start to, again, it's pieces of the puzzle. You start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Where the hell is this bike thing coming from?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm asking. Where the hell am I? And you get some of the family say, well, there was another bike in there. I saw it. Okay, where was it hung?
Right. It's one of the things I'm struggling with this case also is that the sheriff seems to be putting out a lot of information to make us think a very specific way. He even went as far as saying that he thinks that Michael killed himself and went and jumped off the bridge. And then he kind of retracted that a day or two later. Well, I probably shouldn't have said that because I upset the family.
Yeah, I think the sheriff wants it off his table. Look, like you and I have discussed before, you know, these cases I get usually have one thing in common: is they're in a small county that has a small sheriff or police department that they don't have the resources or they don't have the experience, which is not bad. I mean, look, I remember 28 years ago when I started off, I had no experience.
Right.
Okay. I've built it all the way up 28 years. So you get some sheriff's departments that, like this county, that Hunt County does not, they get homicides, but they don't get a big case. This is a big case for him. Right. This is huge. I mean, it's a huge case for the state of Texas. And they don't, you know, they get on scene, and the first guys on scene should, you know, there's people running around all inside the dang garage. The first thing you do is secure the crime scene. Everybody out. God dang it, everybody go to the street. They should have gone to the street. They should have, you know, that's how it should have started. Do I think they did a good job in attempting to search that first night? Absolutely. They had FLIR helicopters in. Mm-hmm. They had horses. They had dogs. They had got EquiSearch in there eventually. They did some sonar work. They did a wonderful job on the search and rescue. Absolutely wonderful. Now, remind yourself. They did a wonderful job. They cleaned that whole area out. They did a wonderful job.
Right.
Meaning nobody in that area.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
That's why I go back now and say, hey, think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. Really think about it.
Yeah.
If there had been a body in that area, they would have found it. If there had been a body out on that 2-mile bridge, they would have found it. Hell, if they had dumped a bike in the 2-mile bridge, they would have found it.
Right, right.
All these law enforcement agencies that have been out there, pinging and sonaring. I mean, I've been on with EquiSearch many times, where they've been pinging and pinging and pinging, and oh, there's a bike. Okay, and pull the bike out. You can see it on the screen. They've got some sophisticated equipment. I've rode with Port Arthur Fire Department. I've trained on this stuff. I've found bodies using this stuff.
Yep.
I tell you that if that bike was out there at that bridge, they would have found it by now. Now, maybe Michael, according to these theories, maybe Michael went and put the bike against a tree and somebody stole the bike.
Right.
And then he went and jumped. Well, okay.
Yeah. It still doesn't hold up because you've got the 9-foot problem. The bridge
exactly.
Yeah.
You're not going to die jumping off 9 feet.
No.
Oh, and by the way, he's a firefighter and he's trained in swift water rescue. Right. Hello. You know, that's the kind of things investigators like me that have been through this before, we look at.
Yeah.
You go pull his Dallas Fire Department file. He's trained in that. Right. 9 feet isn't going to kill him. He's trained to jump off of 9 feet.
Yep.
It wouldn't even knock him unconscious.
No.
So, help me. You know, somebody help me with that. It doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's another interesting twist to this whole case, which is Mr. Bradley Dunn, the guy that tried to help law enforcement with this case and then wound up getting arrested by them. Have you looked into him at all? Do you know much about this angle?
You know, I have a little bit. You know, Bradley's had his issues in the past. And, you know, do I think it has anything to do with this? You know, no. Do I need to talk to Bradley? Yes, but it's not high on the priority list if that catches a clue for you. Gotcha.
Yeah, he's actually, I tried to contact him. I had a kind of a mutual friend that was trying to line us up. I got one text message from the guy. He seemed like he really wanted to talk before his court date, which was last Monday. And then after,
I think they pushed. Did they push?
No, they dropped it. Yeah, they dropped it, but with prejudice, they say. So, and it was really strange because some of the conditions I heard around it didn't match the story that I heard. It wasn't that they found a gun actually on him at the time. They found someone who said that he mentioned he was going to have a gun, and they got a statement from that person. And then they went and actually arrested him the following day. What's really bizarre to that whole thing for me, and let me ask you, because you have so much more experience with this, how often does someone go to law enforcement to try to help in a case like this and then have law enforcement flip around and arrest them? I would just think that that's a horrible policy when you're looking for help from people.
Well, the answer out there to the public's not going to be real popular, but, Bradley's good, like I said, has his own set of issues.
Yeah.
And, Bradley probably needs to take a step back and take a good look at his life a little bit and decide, what direction. Now I don't have these charges. I heard they pushed, so that's good. So it's off. So where do we do? Do we go this road or we do this road? The best road for Bradley to do is live out there in that trailer on the property, focus on what's good in his life, and go to work every morning.
Yeah, yeah. And if he does, if you do think that he has compelling information, I'm sure you'd want him to pass it on to you, right?
I do, and we have had intermediary conversations, but I can't disclose those conversations.
Okay. And just one other aspect. If we're talking about a possible scenario where in some way Becca or someone she's associated with is involved here, do you think that the trip to Walmart was part of setting this plan into motion in some way?
Yes and no. I think it was a run on, because Walmart, actually what you do is you go down this road, you take another road, and then the Walmart's right here, and then you take another road to 2 Mile Bridge.
Right.
I don't want to speculate on that because I don't have any factual basis for that, but I am interested in it simply because it's the same route that he went, according to everybody. And that always brings us into interest. Do I think that everybody goes to Walmart? Yeah. I mean, everybody goes I go to Walmart. I hate going there, but I go there. But, was it a dry run? I don't know. I don't see any evidence of a dry run, but again, it does pique our interest. It does make me look at it and want to go, okay, I want to know more about that.
Yeah. Does your wife ever have you buy her mascara?
I've been married a couple of times, and no.
Yeah, I've never had that happen.
None of my wives ever wanted me to buy their mascara. Yeah. And that's kind of weird in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go, is there any other aspect of this case or anything that you wanted to share with us? I know you reached out to us, so I just want to make sure that we covered everything that we wanted to get.
Well, the reason I wanted to reach out with you all is I didn't want it to get crazy like some of the other cases that we've done. I think in the social world we live in on the internet, I mean, you do good work. You use your YouTube and everything else for good work.
Yeah.
But people on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, they all of a sudden become these little part-time, homebound private investigators, or some think they're law enforcement. Yeah. They're not. You got to get out on the street. You got to get out from behind your computer. You got to get out and think about things. Do I think people on that lake need to keep their eyes open? Yeah, let's do that. Let's keep your eyes open. I'd love to be wrong. It's kind of like I told you in the Dior Coons case. I get on my knees every night when I say my prayer before I go to bed and pray that I'm wrong. Yeah. I hope I'm wrong. I pray to God I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But 84% of the time, I'm not wrong. Mm-hmm. And there's people out there that might know something, that heard something, especially in some of those bars up there. That's important to us. Okay. Especially out on that day. We've talked to a lot of people that were involved in Becca's day-to-day thing that happened that day. Right. We've talked to just about everyone that had any conversation with her that day, other than Becca. Yeah. But if you know something, say something. That's what I wanted to try to portray today. Look, this case is very fluid. It is very solvable. There's a lot of characters and a lot of players in this thing, like an opera. But do I think, let's dispel the fears. Do I think law enforcement's involved? No. But do I think they are embarrassed? Yes. And when they are embarrassed, do they do things they shouldn't do? They're human. Yes. Does Becca know more than she's saying? My guess is yes, because she's not talking to us. If she were to talk to us, I'd probably say something else. But until she talks to us, can't.
Right.
Did the boyfriend lie about talking to Becca that day and possibly even being very close to Becca that day? Yes, but when confronted, he broke down and told us the truth. Did that boy, is there a bicycle? I can't find a bike. So we've discussed that ad nauseum, but I don't have a bike. And lastly, probably the most important is, was this guy depressed? And he wasn't. I don't see it. I think this is part of that drama that comes up in Facebook, or that drama that gets built up from these warrior detectives that think they're super detectives that haven't gone out in the street and talked to the neighbors and taken notes. You know, we have 3 boxes in the room right next to me here in the war room of the Chambers case.
Right.
I invite you to come down here and dig through that and look at it and go, there's nothing. What you're being told and what is are 2 different things. And where does it come from? I think a little bit of it comes from Facebook. I think a little bit comes from angry investigators on the law enforcement side. And I think a little bit comes from family members that look, God bless them. They want answers.
Yeah.
Bless them. They want answers. And they just want this over with. Just let's be done with it. I can't handle this. People deal with grief in very many different ways.
Right.
So that's my opinion to you.
So if people do have information, in the description box below, I will have contact information for you. But would you also recommend that they double up the effort and send it into law enforcement as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. The sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of that county. I don't know if he likes me or doesn't like me. He just doesn't like private investigators, I think.
Yeah.
And so my cohort, who's also investigating on the other side, you know, he's starting to feel a little pressure too, I understand. So everybody's starting to feel a little pressure here. You know, the way I look at it is time's on my side. But yes, definitely. If you know something, call it into your sheriff's department. If you're uncomfortable with police departments and you want to stay anonymous, call us. We'll keep you anonymous and we'll get it to them. We share everything we have. They have complete access to our case file management system.
Yeah,
we give that to all law enforcement.
And just keep in mind, everyone, that Philip spelled it out. These are 2 separate investigations that are going on here. So if you want to help both of them, please do help both of them. I will have contact information for both of them in the description box below. Yep. Philip, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for your work that you do and keeping people informed. And you are very, very, you're very methodical how you do things, and I like that. You'd be a good team member down here. Need a job.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and anytime, if there's other cases that you think we can help with, please feel free to reach out.
We'll do it. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Philip. Philip Klein, everyone. And that is the end of today's episode. Wow, a lot to think about, a whole different consideration. Seems like another person of interest that we didn't even know about before this video. If you guys want to talk about it in the comments below, please do. And remember, I've got the contact info down there. If you have a piece of this case, you might not even think it's all that important, but if you might have seen someone that matches his description at the time, any aspect of this case, please call it in to both of them, hopefully, if you're comfortable. But like Philip stated, if you want to remain anonymous, you can contact KIC and they will help you do that as well. Thank you so much for caring about these cases like I do. I'll see you back here tomorrow on the Lord and Arts channel.